We had the record number of occupancies happening in 2025. A lot of people have bought these units at crazy values. I mean, they all bought it at future values, which right now they barely even at times worth 50 to 60% of what people pay.
So unfortunately, they can't just cancel a contract. You're under a binding contract that you need to follow.
Not only are you losing the deposit they've put 10, 15, 20%, they're paying out of pocket another 10 to 20% just to make sure they're getting rid of the unit. They got a letter from the builder saying, hey, you're in default, we're going to sue for damages. Guys, thank you for watching. If you find this episode useful, share it with anyone you think might find this useful and hit that subscribe button. So you know what's scarier than rising interest rates? Signing for a pre-construction deal 5 years ago. Now time comes for closing and you can't close for it. Let's talk about nightmares that's happening right now in the pre-construction world. And today who we have here is Azin from AG Law discussing some of the issues people are running into when the time comes for occupancy and closing and people are deciding, they're not going to be able to do it. So we're going to walk you guys through the options, situations, and what alternative solutions are available for you to be able to close the unit that you bought a few years ago. Azin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So today what we want to talk about is what's really happening in Toronto right now with the pre-construction field, because we had a frenzy going on for the last few years, especially 2020, 2021 with the pre-construction world. A lot of people bought a lot of projects. I know for a fact in 2021, I think there was close to 70 project launches and they're all coming into occupancy right now. We had the record number of occupancies happening in 2025, well over 31,000, and we have another year, 2026, which is going to be well over 20,000 units going into occupancy. And a lot of people have bought these units at crazy values. I mean, they all bought it at future values, which right now, not only they're not appraising, they barely even at times worth 50 to 60% of what people pay. What are you seeing right now?
We're seeing a lot of low appraisals and a lot of people going crazy because they can't close. Their pre-approvals that they had received from before, no longer valid. The banks are not giving them the amounts that they need. So it's a little bit crazy, and that's what we're facing right now.
So when someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, you know what? I've bought this thing and I'm not able to close. We want to know, first of all, what options do they have available? Are they even able to simply cancel the contract, and dive deep into the repercussions they will have?
So unfortunately, they can't just cancel a contract. You're under a binding contract that you need to follow. But there are several options that everyone can try in practice, one being an assignment.
Yeah.
You can always try to assign it. Obviously, they're going to have to lose a little bit of money in assigning sometimes because they're going to try to find that perfect buyer for the property. If they can't assign, sometimes we try negotiating with the builder's lawyer to either allow them to skip the occupancy and bring it all on final closing and do it final closing. Sometimes we ask for a VTB. Sometimes we ask for a price abatement. It just really depends on the situation.
So we want to dive into all these little alternatives. Let's first talk about assigning. So in my opinion, that's the first option. If you cannot close on a unit, use that assignment option. And it's funny because I've always said it, we've talked about assignments for years now. People used to make money on assignments. And I always said, do not buy a unit with the intention of just assigning it, because if the market goes down and you cannot assign it, you got to be able to close. And assignment is just an exit strategy. When the market was good, yes, you would have been able to, make some profit on it. But if your only strategy of investing is to buy something pre-con and assign it, it's a very risky one. And a lot of people unfortunately did that. And now that they're assigning it, not only are you losing the deposit they've put 10, 15, 20%, they're paying out of pocket another 10 to 20% just to make sure, they're getting rid of the unit. So assignment is one of the biggest options. Let us know when people can actually assign, because there's this misconception that they can assign at any time.
Yes. So a lot of the contracts that they've signed with the builders, they say that you cannot assign during occupancy. But that's where the lawyer's job comes in. Sometimes it has happened even a day or two before occupancy. We've been able to get you the assignment. But it takes a little bit of time, patience, but you have to be able to make sure that the person you're assigning to has everything else ready so that it goes as a smooth
As
step.
possible.
Yeah.
So in terms of assignment, I mean, a lot of builders have restrictions saying, okay, you know what, they have to have sold maybe minimum certain percentage of the units. Sometimes they say, you know what, we've hit this percentage of the construction. And finally, sometimes they restrict you during, let's say, you know what, we're not going to assign you during occupancy or maybe a month before closing. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, I've seen it in many cases that these restrictions sometimes go out the window, especially in today's situation, that people really need to assign to mitigate the losses.
Yeah.
Do you
So
see
right
that?
now they're being very lenient on that. I've seen it a lot. I've seen it happen a lot. There in the contract it says you can't assign within 90% of the project being sold or within 30 days of the occupancy date.
We've seen a lot of them actually, like just before even closing, we've assigned units. Like a couple of days before the closing, we've assigned a unit. Again, it's case by case. I don't want this to become that, oh, you know what, there was a case like this that happened. Each builder treats it differently. But again, in my opinion, if someone can close, they have to explore that as a first option. Guys, thank you for watching. If you find this episode useful, share it with anyone you think might find this useful and hit that subscribe button. So let's also talk about the timing for the assignment. How long does it usually take for an assignment to happen? Let's just say right now someone wants to sell a unit. Besides the fact that it's going to take you X amount, which what we're seeing right now these days on average, it's easily about 90 days to assign a unit because they take longer to assign. But from the time of an acceptance of an offer, how long does it take for the assignment to go through?
So it just really depends. The fact when you do an assignment, the builder's lawyer will always ask for you for a pre-approval of the mortgage of the new buyer. Will ask for IDs and obviously just like job description and all that little descriptions of what it is that the new person is buying it for them to draft the contract. Usually we always say give them at least 10 business days for the builder to draft it, builder's lawyer to draft you the assignment agreement, send it to us so that we can send it to the assignor's lawyer. There's 3 lawyers involved during that process, so it takes a little bit of time of each person doing it. So we always say 10 business days.
So 10 business days is the minimum, because I've seen them like take as long as a month sometimes, or even longer. We've had that it happens. Yeah. So one thing to also keep in mind is that when we're talking about that 10 business days is just for the builder lawyer to get their documents ready. So that's 2 weeks minimum. Ahead of that, what we have is buyer's lawyer review of the contract, which usually takes minimum of 5 business days. And then we have the financing for assignments, which in most cases is 10 business days. So you're looking at easily a month to a month and a half from the time you have an accepted offer till the assignment actually goes through. So you need to account for that time. If you're trying to assign a unit 5 days before closing, you're going to be in a little bit of a bind, right? So that is options for assigning. The other option you mentioned about extending the occupancy and going straight to closing. How often do you see that happen? And do builders charge you a penalty or something for doing that?
So the builders will charge you the occupancy fee, but sometimes this happens on the final statement of adjustments. I have seen it happen actually recently often, whereas before this was never an option, but right now because builders are understanding the market situation and everyone's current situation, they're allowing for that to happen. However, they are charging for the occupancy fee. So you will have to pay the occupancy fees regardless. It's just going to be on
It will
your
be
final closing rather than you paying it monthly right now if you cannot afford to close.
Okay. And what have you seen it that they push back the closing as well?
So pushing back closing, yes, 3 weeks to a month. But once again, there's fees involved. In your agreement, a lot of the times it says the percentage that they'll charge per day for you to extend your unit. There's also going to be lawyer fees and there's going to be administrative fees.
So there's going to be a lot of costs incurred if you were to extend it. And you would only extend it if you know you're closing. If you're not closing it, then you got to figure out a way to get rid of the unit before it actually time comes for closing it. So let's also talk about other reasons why people don't want to close. So it could be probably because of financing issues, which most of the cases I've seen it's because of financing or affordability. So if financing is an issue, let's talk about options that are available. So one of them would be bringing a cosigner
Yeah,
or someone untitled that can help you get approved.
exactly.
The second option would be to source some sort of a private lending or some sort of alternative financing that would increase your expenses, but as long as you can afford it, I think it would be fine. But what about VTB options from builders? Because I've seen some cases builders are offering it. I mean, it's a case by case scenario, but what have you
It's
seen?
not very often, but yes, they do offer a vendor take back mortgage. What it is basically the builders give you a certain amount of money, but with a certain interest rate that they'll charge you for a year up until maybe things will change and you'll be able to get refinancing. This is not the case for everyone. The builder has to evaluate themselves. They also evaluate that person's credit scores. Like it's as if you're getting a mortgage from the bank. It's just the builder giving you the mortgage. But this doesn't happen very often. It does with certain builders, but not with all builders.
Okay, so that's again like that could be an option if a builder is offering it. What about, because a lot of units are facing appraisal issues and they're not getting valued at the prices people actually paid for them, 4, 5, 6 years ago. What do you see happening right now? Because a lot of people are hearing about blanket appraisals. What's up with that?
So there's blanket appraisals. Certain banks are offering blanket appraisals to certain projects, but not all projects. So that's once again an issue. Another issue
And
that
can you explain what a blanket appraisal is so a lot of
so
people may not know?
basically a blanket appraisal is that it's the exact value of the property. Whatever you've purchased it, the bank will appraise it at that exact price because they've put certain restrictions or conditions on the builder that allows for the blanket mortgage to happen. But the issue with a blanket mortgage is number one, some people qualify with, let's say, one bank and not the other, and the blanket mortgage is only with that one bank. So a lot of people are facing that issue with the blanket mortgage. And I'm not a bank expert, but I've also heard that a lot of the banks are trying to get rid of the blanket mortgages because of the values being so different right now.
Guys, thank you for watching. If you find this episode useful, share it with anyone you think might find this useful and hit that subscribe button. Got it. So you think that blanket appraisals will be like removed from...
I believe
So, I mean, so that would be an option that if a lot of builders don't offer that, it's going to be a situation because, you got a building, 400 units in them, and they were all sold at, let's say, close to $2,000 a square foot, and the values are right now in the low thousand. That is going to be a problem for the builder.
Yeah, but we're facing that a lot. So something has to be looked upon with the builders as well, because this is something that's going on. At least I see it daily right now in my practice.
So let's talk about what do you see happening if someone, can go through any of these solutions to get their closing happen. What happens next, and what options do they have, or what can they expect happening to them?
So what happens if you absolutely cannot close and you've tried everything? Sometimes we do ask the builder for a price abatement, asking to lower their prices just so that the client can qualify and close.
And have you seen that happen?
I have seen that happen with certain projects.
Good for them.
And it actually help. It's a benefit towards both because the builder is not stuck with having to go through courts and lawsuits, and the buyer, same thing. They're just closing it right away and everyone gets their money and walks away. But what the issue is, if you absolutely cannot close in any certain way, the builders are sending you default letters. Once they send you the default letter, then they go and file a lawsuit against you. The builder will then have to, if you do not have possession of the property, they already have it. But if you do have possession of the property, the builder will have to get a writ of possession, which right now it takes around 8 to 10 months to get.
So that's bringing a sheriff in to kick him out?
Yes.
Like landlord-tenant board issues?
Yes. So then once they kick you out, then they list the house on the property. They list the house on the market to sell the property. And then
You're on the hook for the difference?
you're on the hook for the difference.
We actually had a client that came to us. It wasn't our client. It was someone else's client. They referred it to us to do an assignment, but it was only a few weeks before the closing. So they had a tenant in their unit, which was a problem, and 3 weeks wasn't even enough to get the assignment done. But what ended up happening was they defaulted on the unit, and now a year later, they got a letter from the builder saying, hey, you're in default, we're going to sue for damages. And we saw the builder has a price list with their exact unit there on it, which is substantially below what they purchased. And it's exactly for the price difference of their deposit. So whatever their deposit was, they have it minus that. That's the new price. And they haven't sold it. I mean, if they sell it below that, I'm guessing they're going to come back and sue for the difference.
Yes.
So,
but technically, the builders should have an appraisal of what the market value is now and listed based on that.
mm-hmm.
So,
well, to me, that looks like the market value today, which is unfortunate because they bought the unit 2019. So, anyways, these are the issues people are facing right now with pre-construction. So, if you're thinking of defaulting, don't. And the issues you're going to face is going to be substantial, especially if they come back suing. And how long do they have, builders, to come back?
So anyone has up to 2 years
right
to sue, but builders usually send the default letter right away and start the procedure because they want to make sure that they're secured with the payment.
So to close everything off, let us know 3 of the biggest mistakes you see some of these pre-construction purchasers make when the time comes for closing and they can't close.
Number 1 is that they wait too long. They know that they can't close and they don't do anything about it. Number 2 is that they assume things. Do not assume. Go get a consult from a lawyer. Go speak with a broker. Go speak with a realtor. See your options. And number 3, they still assume that the pre-approvals they obtained 5 years ago from the bank is still valid. They no longer are valid.
That is true. And another thing that I see a lot of people that come to us is they've tried to assign a unit, but they've priced it incorrectly. When you're assigning it, you need to price it accordingly. And keep in mind, if a builder is selling the similar unit still and they've priced it higher, it doesn't mean that you can get that price. If they could have sold it, they would have sold it. You wouldn't see it on the price list. So you need to price it accordingly. And in this market, that price needs to be below the resale value, because if a resale is selling, let's say at 500,000, you can't be selling that unit for 500 because with the closing expenses, it's going to cost the purchaser more and no one's going to come near it in this market. So guys, Azin, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you. If you have any questions, especially if you're in a bind, if you're in a situation that you've bought a pre-construction and you need to consult a lawyer, we have Azin's contact information down below. Contact her. She does a lot of pre-con and assignment deals, so she knows this process inside and out. So reach out to her, ask her the questions, and as always, thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe, hit that share button, and hit that like. We'll see you next time.